programs that are so important to the folks who provide us with food and fiber, building materials, and energy resources. All the things that we've come to know the word essential the past couple of years, living through the plague, as I call it. You know what? Most of the essential things that every American family looks to in their lives comes from a farm and ranch or a forestry family someplace in this nation. So as in terms of return on investment, for all the great things that this Farm Bill provides in 12 titles and the comprehensiveness, Nick did a really nice job of laying out all the comprehensive parts of, where it touches jobs, the economy, food security, national security. The Farm Bill amounts to less than 1.75% of everything that we spend in this nation. So for far less than 2% of what we spend in this country every year, there is no greater return on investment anywhere in Washington than the Farm Bill. So as the road to the final Farm Bill passage continues, the greatest challenge we know face is time. But also we have more than 200 members who have never voted for a Farm Bill, and we're intensifying member and staff education efforts and articulating just how important the Farm Bill is to farmers and ranchers, consumers, to rural America, and quite frankly, to every American family. As I like to say, without a robust rural economy, American families, starting with those who choose to live in large urban centers and cities, will wake up in the cold, dark, and hungry. And there's a part I always have an ad on, my staff are never happy when I say, but it's a truism. We don't grow cotton, but the more I learn about cotton, they're going to wake up naked too. So, you got to do that kind of stuff just to keep your staff on their toes, right? So we do that. How do we do that? We do that through a highly effective Farm Bill. I actually believe anybody could get a Farm Bill passed if you watered it down to the point where it's meaningless and irrelevant. But that's not what we're doing. That's why we're doing this. How do we make it highly effective? That's by bringing your voices to the table. That's why I've done that over 70 different listening sessions across probably 34 states and one territory. A couple days ago, just returned from Puerto Rico, hosting the very first Farm Bill listening session in the territory, the island of Puerto Rico. Once again, I want to thank Congressman Langworthy for inviting me here and making this happen, and your team for putting this great event together. We're here to listen, and we're genuinely looking forward to hearing from each of you. With that, I want to say I don't know if we're going to have a chance to hear from each and every one individually, but I want to encourage you to take unlimited written input as well. And there's still time, clock's ticking, and quite frankly, we're starting to write and we're starting on the legislating side while we're still in this listening mode. But I would encourage you, if you have something you haven't got a chance to express today, put it in writing, send it to the congressman and his team. He'll make sure he gets it before me, and I'll get it before the committee so that we can give it our full attention. And with that, I'm going to kick things over to our host, Congressman Langworthy.
Thank you much. So we're going to, Mr. Kimball is going to moderate the questions, and our job here is to listen and take notes, and you do the talking. So you have the rules of engagement here. Dick, thank you for taking on this role, and to be the one that's unpopular to cut everybody off.
Like he said, I'm the timekeeper. I'm the cop here. So this young lady's going to put up a folder when you have 30 seconds left, and a red one when your time's up, and then I got a little trap door over here. Not really. Anyways, you got 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Sarah Beaver.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Beaver, a loan officer for Farm Credit East, a cooperative providing credit and financial services to our 18,000 customer owners in New York, New Jersey, and all of New England. In addition, our crop insurance arm, Crop Growers, provides risk management solutions throughout the region. With offices in Hornell and Mayville, Farm Credit serves nearly 1,500 members in the 23rd District. As Congress works on the 2023 Farm Bill, let me share two of Farm Credit's broad policy priorities. The first is providing stability and certainty to producers through conversation programs like EQUIP, safety net programs like dairy margin coverage, and risk management tools like crop insurance, including policies for specialty crops and dairy revenue protection. Maintaining a strong, effective, and flexible crop insurance program should be a top priority. Farm Credit is also working on several proposals to enhance our ability to invest in the rural communities our members and employees call home. These proposals include expanding lending for rural housing by aligning Farm Credit's rural community definition with the USDA's. Farm Credit East also supports HR 4736, which would streamline Farm Credit's ability to partner with local banks to invest in vital rural community facilities. Another important part of the Farm Credit's mission is to support young and beginning farmers and to work with farmers in good times and bad, including those facing financial challenges. FSA guarantees from USDA are a critical loan tool in allowing us to provide this support. Given inflation and the high asset values in the Northeast, the current guarantee limit of just over $2 million can be a limiting factor, so we'd ask Congress to consider raising that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kevin Ellis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kevin Ellis, the CEO of Upstate Niagara Cooperative, where I represent 260 farmers across the state of New York and 8 manufacturing plants, one in the great state of Pennsylvania, Chairman Thompson. Appreciate your sponsorship of the whole milk in schools legislation, so thank you very much for that. Turning to the Farm Bill, we urge Congress to restore the higher of for Class 1 pricing. It's been very significantly detrimental to our farmers. Farmers have lost $750 million in 2020, another $230 million in 2022. Just this year, farmers lost yet again $1 a hundredweight in July and $1.67 in August. So we urge Congress to make this part of the Farm Bill this year to go back to the higher of. It has not been revenue neutral. We also urge to make part of the Farm Bill to conduct mandatory dairy plant cost studies every 2 years so that we have current data. The data that we have today is over 22 years old, and that will help our farmers position for the future. The Dairy Margin Coverage Program and RMA risk management tools were dramatically improved in 2018, in the Farm Bill of 2018. We want to continue that and actually strengthen upon that. Turning to energy, we also want to work with you to improve the Rural Energy for America program, or REAP as it's called. Today, dairy cooperatives like Upstate Niagara are exempt from participating due to income limitation, where it doesn't seem as a cooperative of farmers that we should be limited. And although not a Farm Bill issue, we had 2 major snowstorm events last year, and we're working with the FSA office to roll out a milk loss program. We still have not been paid 8 months later, so we would appreciate any attention to that matter. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Pat Meehan.
Good morning. My name is Pat Meehan, and I'm Chief Executive Officer of Career Family Farms. And Congressman Langworthy, Congressman Thompson, thank you for taking the time to come today and hear from us. I'm going to speak on behalf of the egg producers industry. Avian influenza, it was a very, very significant a disease, virus actually, that impacted our industry. In 2022, well over 40 million layers nationwide deceased due to that. It not only affected the layer industry, but impacted the turkey industry and many other industries as well. Now, I'm pleased to say that no commercial farms have been impacted in 2023. However, there's a fallacy in that fact. Cornell can speak to the fact that the incident of avian influenza still is incredibly high within the wild area out there, and it continues to be a threat. Now, some have suggested that vaccines is a short-term solution. Unfortunately, it is not, for a lot of details and complexities that we don't have time for the moment for me to speak to. What we need to do is the industry, along with the government, needs to continue to work very proactively on this. And I will say that we have worked very proactively, and I think it's a great example of how industry and government can work quite well together. Specifically, what they asked today is that there's some funding that's been put forward to help increase the number of personnel within APHIS. APHIS does an outstanding job, and I'm here to tell you that as bad as it was in '22, it would have been a lot worse and would have been more challenging for us to get through it with that. So we would ask that you support the funding for APHIS, along with some consideration for indemnification for low path avian influenza as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas Pyle.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Nick, fellow Americans. I'm here on behalf of Welch's. We're the brand owned by the National Grape Cooperative. I want to recognize and thank the Congressman and the Chairman for their great efforts to maintain the 100% WIC juice prescription program that serves half of America's nutritionally at-risk children and mothers. The White House is conducting a strategy on hunger, nutrition, and health. The effort is conducted under the lens of health equity, social justice, and an initiative to reduce added sugars. Please help us inform the White House of the counterintuitive optics of USDA's proposed rule change. The rule will cut current benefits to those children by at least 16 monthly half-cup fruit servings and then allow an optional exchange of 16 more fruit servings for $3. The reduction for mothers is even more severe. The rule change impacts low-income families, and as a SNAP redemption benefits show, this will leave them with few alternatives other than sugar-sweetened beverages. Secondly, on behalf of the brand, I must lift up the Market Promotion Program, MAP. That's something that Welch's has been involved with for 20, 30 years. We get a matching grant from the federal government. It's helped Welch's brand get developed throughout the Pacific Rim. You can see Welch's branded products being sold on Japanese television, and it's also helped us in Europe build a significant stronghold and love of the Concord grape throughout England, and we're working our way into the EU. So please fund that program. I know it gets attacked as corporate welfare, but it's limited to cooperatives like Welch's, and we used it. I think the return is anywhere from $35 for every dollar spent. So it's a win-win for American agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen Torrey.
Good morning, Congressman Thompson and Congressman Langworthy and fellow friends of agriculture who all share the passion. I'm Maureen Torrey Marshall, a member of a multi-generation dairy, fresh vegetable, grains, and trucking companies in Western New York. I also serve as chair of the National Council of Ag Employers and the past chairman of United Fresh. I'm primarily focusing on the specialty crop segment today, as you've been hearing from my dairy peers. Specialty crops in New York State ranks 4th in the nation, and we only have one growing season. Public investment in agriculture through Farm Bill programs help to continue to meet the demands of consumers for domestically produced fruits and vegetables. Nutrition, We need to expand access and affordability to safe, healthy, and affordable foods. The Farm Bill can improve access by expanding the fresh fruit and vegetable program to schools, incentivizing produce and SNAP. And I also encourage you to co-sponsor the Fresh Produce Procurement Reform Act. You need to continue to invest in the GUS NIP program. One of the most important things for our industry is research, as we've heard, important to all aspects of agriculture. The Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, plant disease and disease projects. Facing the labor force, it's important that we have an R&D program to help with advancing automation, research, and development in agriculture. We also need to look at the current adjusted gross income. It's affecting many of our farms. It's very costly to grow, especially crops, and our farms are diverse, and it's keeping out of us from participating in certain crop insurance programs. But the major issue facing all commodities in agriculture is labor, aging workforce. Appreciate you forming the House Committee on Agriculture Bipartisan Working Group. But it's important to continue to make constructive changes in the H-2A program. The most important change that could be made, and my dream is it's going to show up in the Farm Bill, is that we can have H-2A or some type of guest visa program year-round. Every part of every commodity needs it, from your dairies to our packing sheds on our fruits and vegetables. Thank you very much.
Share some of what we're working on H-2A.
Yeah,
Because it's not part of the Farm Bill, but, you know, Chairman Thompson's kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and important.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? If not, okay. Maureen, thank you. Thank to everyone so far for all the points that you've made, and certainly the point you made with labor. Maybe I just don't know how to work it. Nope, I know how to work it. We don't have jurisdiction over what I think is probably consistently the number one issue when it comes to one of the number one issues, a top issue, put it that way, and it's labor, right? I'd say it was the number one issue everywhere. It's a top issue. You get the closer you get to California, water is kind of the top issue, unfortunately. Thankfully, we're blessed with our districts with water, and water gives life. But labor workforce is an issue everywhere. And so we don't have direct jurisdiction over that, but we have an interest, and a solid interest, because it's important to all of you and to all those hardworking families to provide us with food and fiber and building material and energy resources. It is consistent everywhere. It's just not production, it's processing. And you can't have one without the other. Production will not exist without processing. Processing doesn't exist without production. And so I took advantage of the rules of the House in the 118th Congress, which allows me to have 6 subcommittees, and we have those. We all have our subcommittee assignments. But I took the advantage of the fact that the rules allow us to do a task force. And so I formed a task force on this issue, agriculture workers, and really serious about us moving the dial on this, because what we're talking about is food insecurity. Without workforce in agriculture, in both production and processing, we're facing food insecurity. And when you face food insecurity, that's just one notch below national insecurity. So it is critically important. And unfortunately, the whole agricultural workforce, which we've worked on for a number of Congresses, there was a piece of legislation that I helped to get passed out of the House. It wasn't perfect. I held my nose in the 117th Congress, but I described it as the only train leaving the station. And I'm actually a House member, the Council and the Senate, to fix some broken things, not so perfect things that we may send to them. Senate didn't do anything with it, the Modernization Act, which was fine, because I didn't want to see it pass in the final realm if it hadn't been corrected with some, so it seemed like it was time for us to show some initiative. on the Agriculture Committee. So I formed this task force. Nick serves as a part of it, which I'm very appreciative. My staff love to put out information on it that says there are 14 members. I got smart staff, but they don't do good with numbers. There's 16 members because the chairman and the ranking member are a part of the task force as well. And it's, this is how serious I was about it. You know, normally you take advantage of being in the majority. So you would have a margin more members than the minority party. I didn't do that with this. There are 8 Republicans and 8 Democrats because we need to be working in a strong bipartisan way to get this done. Normally when you're in the majority, you would have a chairman and a ranking member in the minority party. I didn't do that either. There are 2 co-chairs. We have a Republican from Arkansas, a Democrat from North Carolina, and they're doing a great job. And when we're in Washington, they're meeting, they're bringing people before the committee, specialty crops, forestry, I mean, just processing, to be able to hear and identify what are the issues regarding the lack of reliability in agricultural workforce. And be able to determine majorly what are the implications for food insecurity. Because that'll be the banner of which we address this. It'll be food insecurity. It won't be about the wall, it won't be about legal immigration, it won't be about citizenship. All those things are important. But we really want to focus on the risk of food insecurity when it comes to the workforce. So also, it could have gone on for 2 years, but I find in Washington, deadlines are helpful. If you may be paying attention, we tend to get things passed at the 12th hour, right? So we made this a 6-month task force. We're not quite halfway through yet, but the goal, I'm expecting an interim report from the task force and halfway through that talks about what are the variables that have been identified in terms of the lack of certainty in agriculture, both production and processing workforce, and what are the implications for food insecurity. And then towards the end of the year, somewhere around the end of the year, at the end of this life of this task force, what do we do about it? What are the lessons learned? What are we hearing from, from the, all the different commodity groups in terms of implications? And so, again, we do not have jurisdiction. The task force really isn't set up to write the legislation. It's to collect the data, collect the information, to make the recommendations. And I'll take that and work with a small group, and we'll put that legislation together. Hopefully it'll be something that as many of the 53 members of the House Agriculture Committee can rally around, and quite frankly, even more importantly, that all of you could rally around. And then off the thread the needle politics as we take that to what seems like we'd have to go to the Judiciary Committee at this point. So that's why we're at this. We're definitely plowing new ground in the House Agriculture Committee, but this is incredibly important. This would not be a part of the Farm Bill. I wish it would, but I don't think our parliamentarians would allow that to occur. And also the timing is not there. When the Farm Bill, even though there's a lot of discussion by the senators that this Farm Bill won't be till the end of the calendar year, we've been working at full speed in the House Agriculture Committee. I actually think we could be ready for markup in September before the bill technically expires. So obviously it's not going to line up that way either. So, but thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
And Marina's been out on the front lines of this for years and years. And we know the Senate's going to take a long time to do something. But thank you for your leadership on that issue, Chairman. And they're kind enough to have the meetings at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So if you do that, very happy to.
I've already gotten 3 calls from farmers myself.
There we go. Very good.
Okay, Al Currier.
I'm Hal Creer from Creer's Eggs. Thank you, Congressman, for both of you for having this meeting. And I just want to talk about the EATS Act, which has been, I think, tacked onto the Farm Bill. And what that would do is negate the state laws that have popped up controlling how animals are produced. For instance, in California, they have a cage-free law that went into effect. So all the farmers that are producing eggs for California had to switch over to cage-free, and they've done that. And so now to go in and, kind of negate that law, these people have just spent millions and millions of dollars switching their farm over to the production system that, was put in place by that. So I, would caution about that. There are also, unintended consequences and, unforeseen consequences that I can't tell you what they are because they're unforeseen. And, but things happen sometimes. And I would say that both New York and Pennsylvania have limited egg movement due to the avian influenza. In New York, it was in the 1980s when there was a bad outbreak in Pennsylvania. It was limited to Pennsylvania at that time. And then also last year, Pennsylvania limited unwashed eggs from coming in from New York. So, both states have done that. And, it's important for states to be able to regulate the food in their state. Something that happened when I was young, it was in the 80s, I think. Eggs were coming into New York from a producer that was a very substandard producer, and the eggs were low quality and causing people to get sick. And New York shut that off. States have to have that ability to do that sort of thing. Thank you.
I'll just give you an update. I mean, the EATS Act has been opposed full-throatedly by the animal rights folks. With industry concerns, which I understand, there's a difference between animal welfare and animal rights. And we're all very robust in the animal welfare because we care for those chickens, right?
Yes.
Stock and trade. And so I don't see the EATS Act, because of how it's been demonized successfully, actually, it's amazing. But I will tell you my concern is that a state like California, and we're not going to do anything that interferes with the state's ability to regulate its own safety issues. And you bring up a great point, the whole implications of AI and other things. But here's the problem. And I really appreciate our egg producers. I work with them in Pennsylvania. I know that you all do a great job here in New York. But the decisions that are made in California are not made on real science. They're made on emotion. And quite frankly, they'll do these propositions, and it seems like they're really successful there with them. They did it on eggs to start with. Now they did it on the size of the containers or the cages, whatever we call it, for pork, and not for the whole time hogs are being raised, but just during gestation time. Those were allowed to be a little smaller to reduce the aggressiveness of the sows, that they have more piglets survive to become bacon. And so it's based on animal science and not political science and emotional science. So the question is, all the egg farmers in New York and Pennsylvania, what happens when somebody emotionally comes back and says, well, we appreciate the fact you spent all that money, but it's not good enough now. And so they'll dictate some other practice. We want to be very careful not to interfere with the safety issues, the state's ability to do their thing. But one state should not be dictating interstate commerce. So I'm just pointing out, it's a tough issue. EATS Act's not going anywhere. Is there something that we can work with the industry that allows, as we go forward, that agriculture is based on real science and not the emotional whims of voters in California? I don't know if we can thread that needle, but
that's a tough one.
I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you for that.
It's a tough issue.
Thank you. Mark McCulloch.
Yes, Mark McCulloch. I'm the president of Schuyler County Farm Bureau. I also work for Cargill Animal Nutrition as a key account manager. So I consult with a lot of dairies, both small and large, both in Pennsylvania and New York. And I also serve served on the North American Intercollegiate Dairy Challenge. So one of the things I want to bring up, and Mrs. Torrey beat me to it as far as on the H-2A program, is the current administration is trying to micromanage that program, you know, and I really appreciate you guys bringing that up and trying to head that, because I've been to Washington several times and we keep getting told the same thing, and that can keeps getting kicked down the road. So I really appreciate taking the initiative to do that, okay? One of my concerns I see out there, working with a lot of farm families, is having that new generation come into the farms, right? Talking to the universities throughout the country, we're starting to see less and less enrollment as far as in dairy programs. So, and that all comes back to farming, right? And I enjoy seeing the FFA people here, right? Because that's what we need to have in this country. Because if we don't address that, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Hepukura? Sorry. I look down here, I see a couple of them.
Good morning, Chairman Thompson and Congressman Langworthy. My name is Ralph Hapuku. I'm a plant manager at Saputo in Friendship, New York. We have 27 manufacturing facilities throughout the US. The facility I manage, we produce sour cream and cottage cheese with an annual production of 208 million pounds a year that we put on American tables. We currently employ 340 people, with 75% of our employees from the Friendship town area and the rest within a 25-mile radius. Thank you for inviting me to participate in today's meetings. On behalf of Saputo and as a member of the International Dairy Foods Association, I have 3 recommendations to include in the upcoming Farm Bill. They are: 1, updating the SNAP dairy nutrition incentives to include whole milk, cheese, and yogurt. 2, authorizing mandatory cost of dairy processing surveys. And 3, making the dairy forwarding pricing program permanent. First, we thank Congressman Langworthy for introducing the Dairy Nutrition Incentives Program Act, HR 5099, to include whole milk, cheese, and yogurt incentives to help improve SNAP recipients' access to a healthier diet. And we ask Chairman Thompson and the Agriculture Committee to include this legislation in the Farm Bill. Under the current program, SNAP participants who purchase low-fat or non-fat unflavored milk receive an immediate discount on that milk, or a coupon that can be used to purchase more fluid milk or another dairy product. More than 125 pilots have started in Texas, New Jersey, Alabama, Georgia, South Dakota, and California, with another 500 additional pilots that should be planned for other regions of the country in the next grant later this year. In this Farm Bill, we ask the committee to provide more funding and expand these incentives to more nutrient-rich, including whole milk, cheese, and yogurt. For example, cheese is a nutrient-rich food that contributes protein, calcium, phosphorus, and vitamin A to the US diet. For vegetarian, cheese and other dairy products are an important source of high-quality protein for people with lactose intolerance. Cheese can be a source of nutrition with minimal lactose. Dairy incentives are a way to help 90% of Americans who are not consuming enough dairy to meet their basic nutritional needs. Please include the dairy nutritional incentives as you write this Farm Bill. My time is almost up, right? Yeah. So, lastly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide this statement and appreciate your attention to hearing and addressing these issues when writing the upcoming bill. Thank you.
Nathan Prishner.
Well, I'm representing 2 associations this morning, so I hope you can give me 4 minutes, but I'll try not to use all of it if I can. Good morning, Chairman Thompson, Congressman Langworthy. My name is Nathan Pisner. I'm the president of the New York State Cheese Manufacturers Association. I also sit on the board of directors for the Northeast Dairy Foods Association, which I am also representing today. As our friends at Saputo just mentioned, we have 3 areas that we would like to introduce. First deals with the expansion of the Healthy Fluid Milk Incentive Project to other nutritious dairy products, including whole milk, cheese, and yogurt, which provide to provide additional funding for these incentives. We asked the committee to include this legislation in the Farm Bill. Under this program, SNAP participants who purchase qualifying fluid milk receive a dollar-for-dollar coupon that can be used to purchase more fluid milk or another dairy product. In the next Farm Bill, we asked the committee to increase funding for this program and expand it to include whole milk as well as cheese and yogurt. Dietary guidelines for Americans repeatedly recommend nutrient-rich dairy, which includes milk, cheese, and yogurt as part of a healthy eating pattern, but also found that 90% of all Americans are not consuming enough dairy to meet the basic nutritional needs. Cheese, which is a highly nutritious and palatable food, is of significant value in the diet because it contains all the essential protein, minerals, and vitamins, and almost other nutrients of milk. It also only contains 4 natural ingredients: milk, bacteria, cultures, enzymes, and salt. Second, we asked Congress require USDA to conduct regular costs of process studies that could be used to adjust make allowances, which the federal order system uses to compensate processors for turning raw milk into finished dairy products. Current make allowances have not been adjusted in 15 years and do not reflect the cost of today's dairy products. Thirdly, we support permanent authorization of the dairy forward pricing program. This pricing program also allows producers to enter into forward price contracts with buyers for milk used to manufacture class 2, 3, and 4 products. This program expires the end of this month, which means that no forward price contracts may be entered into after that date. While necessarily not related to the Farm Bill, we are very concerned about recent rulemaking proposal by the Department of Agriculture that could jeopardize the use of cheese in school meal programs. We ask for the committee's help to ensure the USDA finals rule on school meal programs and for the USDA to make recommendations for necessary sodium use in these cheese. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Rich Hill. Ralph Horchler.
Good morning. I'm Ralph Horchler. I'm a regional manager for Growmark FS. I'm responsible for 9 facilities of theirs in western New York and western Pennsylvania. I live in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour south of Erie. As a farmer-owned cooperative, Growmark and our FS system support Farm Bill policies that allow farmers to maximize their profitability while pursuing voluntary management decisions that promote conservation outcomes. Farmer cooperatives like ourselves want to work alongside NRCS to get more conservation programs onto these farms, but unfortunately the current technical service provider program is very cumbersome and it disincentivizes participation. We ask that the Farm Bill include provisions to help streamline this program, such as making a simplified pathway for certified crop advisors to be TSPs and to require NRCS to adopt technology that allows for seamless connection of producer data into those NRCS programs to simplify the completion of nutrient management plans and other programs. It should also allow the program applicants the option of reimbursing the retailer or the cooperative that assisted in preparing those applications through the use of their NRCA cost share funds. Secondly, fertilizer is a key ingredient in feeding a growing population. With China, Russia, and Belarus supplying 35% of the phosphates and 40% of the potash, it has created and continues to create today really difficult times for our grower customers. Phosphates and potash meet the criteria of being a critical mineral as the definitions in the Energy Act of 2020 related to national security, supply chain vulnerabilities, and the minerals serve an essential function in ag. Listing these minerals as such would assign related permitting to one agency that would be responsible for coordinating needed final approvals, but does not exclude them from environmental review. Adding these minerals to the critical mineral list, I'm done. Am I done? Okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
policy that would come with listing them as critical minerals, number one, it puts it out there, not just the government, but the general public. We need those components. That fertilizer is just vital to increasing our yield. And if we can cut through bureaucracy, it's been very difficult last week. Absolutely. Yeah, we've really seen the implications over the past year. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Culligan.
Hello, my name is Laura Colligan, and I'm a farmer from Springville here in New York's 23rd Congressional District. My farm is called Dirt Rich Farm, and I grow certified organic produce that I sell locally. I'm also the president of the Good Farmers Guild of Western New York and a land advocacy fellow with the National Young Farmers Coalition. I'm here to talk about access to affordable farmland. I didn't come from a farming family, but got interested in agriculture as a teenager and learned to farm by working on farms. I didn't go to college, so my parents let me use my college fund to make a down payment on farmland and make other capital investments in my farm. Today, on just 5 acres, I'm able to grow and sell over $100,000 of vegetables per year, which allows my husband and I to make a living from farming. With the average age of the American farmer at 57 and rising, we desperately need more young people to enter farming. In 2022, the National Young Farmers Coalition surveyed over 10,000 young farmers from across America. 78% didn't come from farming families, and the number one barrier that survey respondents identified to their success in farming was access to affordable farmland. That's where the Increasing Land Access Security and Opportunities Act, or LASSO Act, comes in. This bipartisan marker bill would allow nonprofits, states, and tribes to apply for grants from the federal government to get farmers on the land and address other barriers they face in establishing a farm, like building cold storage for their crops or addressing their housing needs. The Good Farmers Guild of Western New York, Providence Farm Collective, which is an incubator farm for immigrant and refugee farmers in the Buffalo area, and a local land conservancy are beginning to work on a project to connect beginning farmers in our region with affordable farmland and support their success in farming. If the LASSO Act is included in the Farm Bill, local projects like ours would have a source of funding to support the establishment of new farms. America needs more young farmers, and we can't just count on middle-class kids with unused college funds to be the future of farming in this country.
Thank you. Jim Bittner.
My name is Jim Bittner. I'm a fruit farmer up in Niagara County, apples, cherries, peaches. I also serve as executive director of the New York State Horticultural Society. Everything's been discussed all right. It's been brought up that I wanted to bring up. I want to thank the two of you for holding this listening session. You two guys get it, understand the things that we're dealing with as farmers, and we really appreciate it. A couple things I want to emphasize in New York that really benefit New York State specialty crop growers, apple growers, and the grape people. The specialty crop block grant and the multi-state specialty crop program are huge in New York. There's a lot of work that goes on this research station. The funding comes from that. Understand in New York, both programs, growers help make those decisions. I'm on the committee for New York's, the block grant comes to New York State. We rank and we decide how that money's going to be spent for priorities of ours, not some bureaucrat somewhere, not the Department of Agriculture, not the university. It's grower initiated, and you need to know that money is well spent, and we treat it like it's our own and are tough with the researchers and make sure that quality work's going to get done. It's money well spent, both of those programs. We really appreciate it. Crop insurance hasn't been brought up. Specialty crops depends on crop insurance. It's our safety net. We don't get crop programs like the row crop people do. We depend on crop insurance. Hail is my biggest fear. If it wasn't for hail, I probably wouldn't buy crop insurance, but hail keeps me up at night. Tree assistance program has been used a number of times by New York growers. Grapevines also, nursery crops are also eligible for that program. Depending on the year, it's been an important thing for New York. Market access has been brought, the market access program's been brought out a number of times. Welch's uses it, the apple growers of Western New York use it. Labor, thank you very much for putting that committee together. We are, as an organization, we're really tooting the horn for farmers to respond to that survey that you guys put out on the internet. And it's short, it's sweet, but it's open-ended. The farmers can put down whatever they think are their biggest labor concerns on that survey, and we are doing our utmost to get growers to respond to that survey. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate it, and thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
When I talk about that, what we're doing with the Ag Worker Task Force, I forgot to mention the board, which shame on me. And so thank you for bringing that to folks' attention that aren't aware that we put something forward. Not really cumbersome to give input, and we just encourage you to, I think that link you find on the House Agriculture website, and encourage anyone that's got workforce thoughts, concerns, issues, experiences that you can share using that portal. Please do. You need your voices at the table for that as well.
Okay, I'm going to announce the next person and then the person that's on deck. That might speed it up a little bit. Roseanne Cole, and then it'll be Kurt Epperchint. Coming from the back of the room.
Our concerns are together, so we're going to let Brett talk.
I'll do my best Roseanne Cole impression. So I want to talk with you momentarily about a map. We spoke about that earlier. Nick had brought that up. A couple of issues for us. One is DPAD, dividend or domestic productions activities deduction. I know it's not part of the Farm Bill, but it's extremely important for us and for our growers. Helps out a great number of them. There's over $7 million that goes to Welch's growers, and there's 700 growers, so it's over $10,000 of income deduction that they can use on their taxes. That helps out a great deal, and that's the average size grower. Number of them get a significant amount more than that. So it's very important for us as an organization. We spoke a little bit about H2A and some of those issues as well for us. So DPAD is extremely important. MAP, H2A. I know we've got a meeting with you folks a little bit after this, so I want to spend some time at that point. I'll give up my time for the other folks that are here. So thank you.
After Kurt is Rich Wojniak.
Good morning. Thank you for having us, Congressman Langworthy and GT, if I may. I am Kurt Epprecht from Great Lakes Cheese, Vice President, second generation owner. And Great Lakes Cheese operates 2 facilities in New York State, one in Cuba, New York, the other in Adams, New York, run approximately 1.6 billion pounds of milk annually, employ over 400 people. And we have a little investment in Western New York and Cattaraugus County in Franklinville going on right now. So thank you for the support of getting that off the ground and making that happen. So I reiterate from the Friends of the New York Cheesemakers as well as Saputo forward pricing program ability for all, continuing that, along with thank you, Congressman, for HR 5009, I think. Thank you. And we need to address make allowances regularly, as Kevin Ellis spoke of, for the dairy industry. A little bit more about that. Great Lakes Cheese reinvested because of our employees in the state and our proximity to the market. Without proper make allowance numbers, there isn't going to be investment, and quite honestly, a lot of the infrastructure in New York is aging and becoming obsolete. The only way you could recapitalize that is by addressing some of these make allowance issues. So I know the IDFA is working hard at getting that number. National Milk does not have as much support for the make allowances, but they agree they have to be adjusted. So let's audit the processors, get an accurate number so we have an accurate Class 3 make allowance platform with whey, cheese, butter, and non-fat, and we can move forward. We, Great Lakes Cheese and the Eprecht family, believe in a healthy farmer, and we want to continue to see dairy grow in the New York State and the Northeast. Thank you.
Richard Georgiak. Diane Held. And after her will be Michael Greco.
Good morning. I am Diane Held, Executive Director of Cornell Cooperative Extension of Erie County. On behalf of Cornell Cooperative Extension and our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, thank you for convening this roundtable for the upcoming Farm Bill. Conducting science research and extension in the public interest to help ensure that New Yorkers have nutritious, accessible, and sustainably produced food is a top priority of our land-grant mission. The funding provided in the Farm Bill supports not just this agricultural mission, but all of Cooperative Extension's service areas. As a national leader in agricultural research, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences sees the needs for increased public support of agricultural research, which accounted for just 2% of the last two farm bills. In 2019 inflation-adjusted dollars, the amount of public federal funding dedicated to agricultural research is largely the same amount as it was in the early 1970s, and we are now being outpaced by other countries, including China and the European Union. An increase in public investment of agricultural research to just 4% of the Farm Bill would allow land-grant institutions to prioritize research not addressed by private research, notably work on crops, fruits, and vegetables that are essential from a nutritional and health perspective. These crops account for roughly half of all agricultural products sold, but receive only about 15% of public research expenditures. We could also invest in research that will explicitly benefit disadvantaged and underserved farmers. While support of scientific agricultural research is an important component of the Farm Bill, through the Smith-Lever Act, it also provides capacity funding for the overall cooperative extension system, including educating our farmers on the school bidding process in order to get local fruits, vegetables, and meats into schools, working with our local farmers, homeowners, and municipalities to mitigate impacts of invasive species, and helping 4-H youth explore career options on the Cornell campus. Every day, Cornell Cooperative Extension improves our communities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Did we miss Fred Johnson?
After Michael is Lauren Pacone.
Did we miss Fred Johnson? I think I had him. You were ready, you wanted to speak to? All right, get him in the queue.
All right, I missed one. Fred Johnson. Sorry about that.
So, my name's Fred Johnson. I own Johnson Estate Winery with my wife Jennifer. We've been back 10 years, and I'm going to be the contrarian a little bit on this. And the reason is I've got, I think, an unusual background. I grew up on Nelson Rockefeller's farm in Venezuela, in a ranch. Spanish is my first language. Went to Cornell Ag School, majored in ag development and agricultural economics. Got another degree, Cornell business degree in finance. Wrote my thesis on the collectivization of Soviet agriculture, which was in the last century the worst exercise in public policy and agriculture on the planet. So after graduating, I worked for Frito-Lay for 15 years. I ran 1,500 acres of peaches and pears in Oregon for Harry and David. Then I ran 5,000 acres of roses and alfalfa in the Central Valley of California for Jackson and Perkins, which used to be in New York, by the way. Then after that, I ran 13,000 acres of bananas in Panama. So I've been around. I ended up my career in corporate life being the CEO of Nature Sweet Tomatoes, which you'll see in Tops supermarkets and around. What I have to tell you is American agriculture is the strongest in the world. If we have a level playing field with the rest of the world, we don't need your subsidies. We don't. We can do it. We've got the best technology, the best people, the best land in the world. The one thing I would emphasize, and you've heard it, the success of American agriculture has been based on land-grant colleges, basic research, applied research, and extension. Those are the things that historically made it go. That's all we need, in my opinion. Thanks.
So, Michael Greco.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Congressman Langworthy and Chairman Thompson, for being here. My name is Michael Greco. I represent Sucro Sourcing. Sucro is a fully integrated sugar refiner with operations in both the United States and Canada, including a multi-million dollar investment recently in Lackawanna at the site of the old Bethlehem steel plant to establish a sugar refinery there. While Sucro is the fastest growing sugar company in North America, the domestic market is still largely dominated by large-scale global sugar producers. So Sucro would just ask that the Farm Bill addresses and prevents any further consolidation in the sugar industry, and that small-scale refiners have their interests considered so that Sucro can continue to expand in New York and the United States more broadly. Thank you.
After Lauren, Steve Cochran. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Pacone. I work for Feed More Western New York. I wanted to start by thanking Congressman Langworthy and Chairman Thompson for being here today and allowing us to voice what we want to see in the next Farm Bill. Throughout Feed More Western New York's four-county service area of Erie, Niagara, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua counties, we work with nearly 400 hunger relief partners. Through those partners, nearly 200,000 Western New Yorkers are given supplemental nutrition every year. These numbers served through our hunger relief partners are higher than they were during the height of the pandemic. The issue of hunger has persistently plagued our nation, even preceding the pandemic. Food insecurity has quietly burdened countless individuals, compelling them to make agonizing choices between vital utilities, medical expenses, and securing food for themselves and their families. However, addressing these needs cannot solely be the responsibility of Feed More, our partners, or any other singular hunger relief organization. This is where the Farm Bill plays a pivotal role. It's become imperative that we pass legislation that caters to all of its stakeholders. Through programs like SNAP and TFAP, we can combat hunger in our state and across the nation. As I previously mentioned, in 2022, Feed More provided food to nearly 200,000 individuals, a record high. Our member agencies have reported seeing a substantial surge in individuals seeking assistance from their food pantries, encompassing either new residents or individuals who have not received aid in years. TFAP, a lifeline to our food bank, allows us to procure food and purchase directly from the federal government from farmers and distribute that to families at no cost. We urge Congress to bolster this program by reauthorizing and augmenting the mandatory funding for TFAP to $500 million. Such an allocation would effectively double the annual funding for TFAP, ensuring a consistent supply of food within the food assistance network and simultaneously supporting the agriculture sector. In tandem with TFAP, we implore Congress to strengthen SNAP. Programs that were, and there's my time. I'll stop for you. And I'll submit the rest to Alan. Thank you. Great to see you. After Steve Cochran, Dr. Eric Randall.
Hello, Steve Cochran. I'm the general manager of Growers Co-op. We are an agricultural cooperative based right here in Westfield, New York. We process approximately 15% of all the Concord grapes grown in the entire universe. And you know, our farmer owners challenge me to say, how can I return more earnings to them? So our good friends over at Welch's, our competitors, have a nice bottle of purple grape juice over there. If you go to your local Tops, that's going to cost you $6. If you give that same amount of juice to Fred Johnson or some of the other winery folks over here,
they're going to turn that into $15 worth of wine. If the Farm Bill supports agritourism, that can turn into a $500 weekend. And that's all monies that goes back into our local farmers. What else? We sell our juice makers, jam and jelly makers, wine makers. 40% of our sales are international. I'm going to walk over to Fred over there, who's actually the local Chamber of Commerce. He's going to sign a document to send a container over to China. As Fred said, if we can level the playing field, there's a huge document packet I have to do for every single load going to China. Let's make it simple. Then the other thing, to reiterate what some of the folks from Welch's have said, and also the dairy industry, let's not be too prescriptive about how we support American farmers and the products that they help feed America with. You talked about cheese and what kinds of cheese and what kinds of milk. For instance, on the juice world, many people say, let's avoid simple sugars. We've decided that soda is a bad thing, and we don't want to do simple sugars. And people are saying, decrease the amount of simple sugars from juice, and people are going to consume more fresh fruits, and that's not true. If children don't drink their juice, they're going to get less fruits and vegetables and less nutrition. So hopefully the Farm Bill can support juice consumption. Thank you.
And after Eric Randall, Kay Cooper Rohan.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Congressman, for hearing us. It's critically important. My hat is off to Mr. Johnson. I can't come anywhere near the experiences, but I've had a lot of them. I'm a maple producer. I'm a farmer. I am the past president of both the New York State and the North American Maple Syrup Council, so I represent in New York State about 800 producers, and across North America about 20,000 producers of maple syrup. Mr. Grieco and I are going to fight about the sugar sweeteners, but we'll talk about that offline. I'm a forest botanist by training. I'm a retired university dean in the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education and the State University of New York. Like I said, I'm a maple producer. I'm one of the few researchers that gets to eat his failures. Try doing that with fruit flies and rats. I've not heard today one thing that I'm really concerned about, and that's climate change. And our industry, maple producers, are inextricably tied to climate. Maureen talked about her short season with cabbage. Ours is even shorter than that. Ours runs from a few days to 5 weeks maximum. We are in a world of hurt. I was a denier for a long time on climate change. I am no more. We're losing our forests. We have invasive species. There's climate change. I would ask for continuation of the ACER Act. I'm also a senior reviewer for AMS USDA ACER Act. I appreciate Congressman Langworthy and Balint for introducing the SAP Act and the TAP Act. Our playing field is not level. We have never had the level of research funding we've had in the last 6 years. Please continue the ACER Act. And I ask that we do what you're doing here, is get the administrators of the ACER Act to listen to producers on the priority of the research that's being done. We don't need to be conducting research on maple trees in Yuma, Arizona. And last year, funding went, $500,000 went for that. So listen to producers, if you would, please. Convince those administrators that we do have something to offer. Thank you very much.
On deck will be Don Betts.
Thank you everyone for being here. Congressman Langworthy and Chairman Thompson, thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of Field and Fork Network. We are a food and farming nonprofit based in Buffalo, New York, but we operate all across New York State.
Field and Fork Network has been operating the Double Up Food Bucks program since 2014. This program started here in Western New York at 7 farmers markets and has grown to over 230 locations across 33 counties in New York, serving over 100,000 individuals. Double Up Food Bucks New York is funded through the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program, otherwise known as GusNIP, which was created in the Farm Bill. It is a federal grant program that provides funding for nutrition incentives and produce prescription projects. Through this grant, our organization has brought in $8.4 million of federal funds to New York State. Double Up operates in grocery stores, farmers markets, mobile markets, farm stands, corner stores, and grocery stores all across the state. The program matches SNAP benefits dollar for dollar up to $20 per day that can be used to purchase local fresh fruits and vegetables, helping to increase food access for New Yorkers. This program is not just a win for consumers. It is a win-win-win program, increasing the accessibility and affordability of local fresh fruits and vegetables for families, increasing the economic opportunities for New York farmers, connecting them with new businesses and selling opportunities, and supporting our local economies. Our experience implementing Double Up Food Bucks has shown that matching SNAP benefits with incentives for locally and regionally grown produce is a cost-effective way to simultaneously reduce hunger. There's bipartisan momentum in the 2023 Farm Bill to do so. I'm just going to skip ahead to our recommendations real quick here. We ask you, Congressman Langworthy, to co-sponsor the GusNIP Expansion Act of 2023. It was previously introduced in July by Congressman Rick Crawford and Congressman Dan Kildee. Bipartisan marker bill, and what it does is reduce the match share for grantees, which is currently burdensome at 100%, and it creates a new tier of cooperative grant programs that will allow these programs to not just innovate, but scale these programs statewide. Thank you so much.
On deck is Charles Madlock.
Hello, I'm Dawn Betts with Betts Farms LLC here in Westfield, New York. I'm a family farmer that has our foots in the vineyards all the time. Notice I say foots because we got to have foot marks in the vineyards. So one thing that's very important to our family is this research center. And I really want to be sure that you people up there in Congress and everywhere else in the United States know how important research and the extension people are to us farmers. We have extension and researchers on our farm, which is just down the road a little bit, not every day, but a lot during the year. We think that that is so important for a farmer. With young farmers, our son is a 5th-generation farm with Welch's, and without research and extension, where is that young farmer going to be? These young people too, they want to be doing their joysticks. They want to have computers in their tractors. They want to do GPS. They want to be using their knowledge that they're learning, and without research and extension, where is that going to come from? So putting that on the farm, on a commercial farm, is super, super important. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. After Charles will be Tom Lynch.
Good morning. My name is Charles Matlock, and I'm a fellow with the National Young Farmers Land Advocacy Fellowship. I'm also chair of the Urban Agriculture Committee for Black Farmers United New York. And for myself, I am the Urban Agriculture Consultant for my business, Golden Carrot Farms. And what I like to tell people is that my title came out of necessity. And what I can tell you, the NRCS and the FSA both have urban agriculture programs that are non-existent. They are 2 to 3 years from actually implementing anything in the urban agriculture world. And I can tell you some of the ways that I use urban agriculture. I use urban agriculture to build community. I use it as an educational tool, but also as a way to bridge the gap between rural and urban farmers. And one of the biggest problems small farmers have is that small farmers lack access to market. And one of the biggest problems urban communities have is that we generally can't afford wholesome food. So one of the things that I've been advocating on a local, state, and federal level is a taxpayer-funded
CSA program, not only to address food security, but also to help build up the local economy. And I've been building a campaign around this idea, and just recently a national organization, the National Right to Food Community of Practice, decided to back my idea. But that's not why I'm here today. One of the challenges that I have to actually making that a reality is one of the problems I have to making that reality is not being able to purchase land to build community gardens on. In Erie, PA, I have the opportunity to buy land to expand my community garden, but just in generally, I can't afford the land in order to feed my community. So I'm here today asking our Congressman for support for the LASSO Act, Increasing Land Access Security and Opportunities Act. This bill addresses the challenges of land access as well as access to capital, markets, and technical assistance to help producers start and grow viable farm business, retain access to land, and transition land. It has bipartisan support in the House, and I would like the members here today to co-sponsor the LASSO Act and the 2023 Farm Bill.
After Tom, Robert Patterson.
Good morning. And thank you for holding this event, Congressman. I'm here on behalf of both the Congressmen. I'm here on behalf of the Fertilizer Institute, so I would also like to associate my remarks with those of Ralph Horkler, who spoke earlier about the challenges associated with incorporating fertilizer and support for growers and consumers into the Farm Bill. And I specifically wanted to mention H.R. 4059, which is the bill dealing with critical minerals. It is a bill that would address potash and phosphate, two of the macro elements that go into making fertilizer. And Ralph mentioned within the very competitive global market of fertilizer, how much comes from China, how much comes from Russia, how much comes from Belarus. I would note for you the last time that the United States Geological Survey put together this list, they left both of those products, both of those macro elements, potash and phosphate, off of the list. That was February of 2022. 2 days later, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the supply dried up coming from those areas. The U.S. imposed sanctions on a host of Russians. The key thing on the macro elements, the critical minerals list involving these macro elements, gets into supply chain and need for domestic supply. We recognize absolutely that the bill is not a bill for crop inputs. The bill is for growers and for consumers, as the chairman pointed out. But to the extent we can aid growers and consumers, that's a worthwhile endeavor. That bill that we hope to see included in the Farm Bill, H.R. 4059, is led by Congresswoman Kat Kamak of Florida and Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. It has 6 Republicans in support. It has 5 Democrats in support, ranging from Colorado, Florida, Michigan, a host of states like that. Alabama, Barry Moore's on the bill. And so we hope to see its inclusion in the bill. And I would finally note that it is supported by a range of stakeholders, the Farm Bureau, a number of state organizations such as the Florida Chamber of Commerce, the North Dakota Soy Association. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you.
After Robert, Emily Reynolds.
Good morning. Let me introduce you guys to Good and Grapey. And I want to express my appreciation for your continued support for rural development and also for school nutrition. This product would not be possible without that. It's geared towards school kids through the Farm to School program in New York State and hopefully other states when we get there. It's also innovation, and it's all repurposing a local car dealership that's been abandoned in Westfield, New York, about 5 miles up the street from here. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and as far as myself, I have a farm up the street here. I do about 175 acres of grapes. And I think I want to reiterate everything that everybody has said. I mean, geez, they stole my thunder, I stole their thunder, whatever. I mean, I appreciate it. One thing I would ask you guys, I
look at the morning ag clips every morning when I'm having my coffee or whatever. So I pay special attention to, they have the state section and a federal section. And the federal section I've been, quite interested in, just, and I hope that you can maybe refocus focus even harder the mission of the USDA on agriculture. Maybe a little less social engineering and a little more agricultural engineering would be great. Thank you for listening.
Emily's all set, so John Jablonski III. And after John will be Sarah Herbst.
Thank you, Congressman, for the opportunity to speak this morning. I represent the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy, which is a land trust watershed education and pollution prevention organization working in the Chautauqua region. We work very closely with landowners and farmers and Soil and Water Conservation District and the NRCS. And we encourage you to include the Forest Conservation Easement Program as part of the Farm Bill. It's essential that we keep our forests in forest and that we keep our ag lands in ag land. Our forests in this area are subject to a lot of pressure from energy development and residential development. And more and more, I think we have had the best weather of anywhere in the world this summer compared to probably anywhere else in the world. And people are going to be moving here because of that. It's really important that we have a strong forest conservation easement program to help our landowners protect important forest lands for our local forest industry. And we really think it's important that there be mandatory funding to go along with that. Secondly, it's really important to increase funding for the agricultural conservation easement program. And at this point, nationally, we're losing about 3,600 acres of natural lands every day and 2,000 acres of working lands. So that really harms our ability to move forward. So I urge you to make sure that these programs get adopted and they're strengthened and that they work for our landowners in the Chautauqua County area. Thank you.
Is Sarah Herbst here? Kristen Helpman Weiss.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Congressman, for the opportunity to hear us all today speak about the needs of Western New York farmers, New York State farmers, and of course, farmers across the country. During the COVID-19 pandemic is actually when my organization came to the fore. My name is Kristen Helpman Weiss, and I'm Executive Director of Providence Farm Collective, which is a 37-acre diverse vegetable farm that actually incorporates about 28 small farms down in Orchard Park. And those farms are run by 275 refugee and Black farmers that initially started out to grow to feed their own community members, which now over 100,000 pounds of fresh produce goes back to their communities, and it's grown by them. And also we have an incubator farm program where we work actually with many partners across the region, including Cornell Cooperative Extension, Westminster Economic Development, Field and Fork. We participate in their Double Up food bucks. All of these partners and COVID-19 have really showed the interconnection of all of us across the food system. So I have three areas that I would really like highlighted in the Farm Bill.
And the first one actually involves strengthening the food system. And I believe that there are current bills in the pipeline that would really help us all here. And those include the Farmers Market and Food Bank Local Revitalization Act, the Strengthening Local Processing Act, Local Farms and Food Act. I want to reiterate what Laura Culligan said about land access. There are several acts that support that, and especially the Increasing Land Access, Security, and Opportunities Act and the Justice for Black Farmers Act. And finally, environmental sustainability and climate change. I ask you to support the Farmer to Farmer Education Act and the Agriculture Resilience Act. And thank you so much for your time.
Marie Tomlinson and then Mario Mazza. I guess Mario. And then Ann Mortz. Mort.
Thank you again, and thank you again, Congressman Langworthy and Chairman Thompson. My name is Mario Mazza with Mazza Wines and 5 and 20 Spirits and Brewing, and as a grower and winemaker here along Lake Erie with farms and businesses in both Pennsylvania and New York, I appreciate the opportunity to share what I believe to be some priorities for the wine industry and grape growing industry, both nationally and locally. I think Fred's experience is probably most apt because anyone looking outside in probably thinks we're all a little bit bananas to do this. But from my own perspective, there are a number of things in the bill that we would like to see from Wine America, which I am a proud board member, to advocate for inclusion. At a minimum, the same amount of funding for specialty crop block grants, as Terry noted, there's a great ROI on that investment. At a minimum, the same amount of funding for value-added producer grants. I think Steve made some wonderful points about the leverage of value-added with our commodities and crops. And at a minimum, the same amount of funding for pest mitigation and research to help ensure that we meet the next challenges and leverage, as you said, GT, the science, technology, and innovation that exists throughout our agricultural community. Additionally, we'd advocate for $400 million in the market access funds to help ensure American producers compete in the global marketplace. Continued support for agritourism for more of those $500 weekends that I look to go on with Steve. And a new request specifically for funding for a national vineyard survey, something that has not been done in a long time. There is supportive language in both House and Senate bills for that, but we would very much advocate for specific explicit support and funding for that effort. So thank you again for your time and effort and a timely passage of the bill.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for the rest of the testimony, but we want to thank everybody for coming, and particularly.
You'd announce Ann. Can we let Ann? We're running short on time, but was Ann here? Yep.
Okay.
You'd announce her, so.
That'll soften the blow. One more.
I'll make this sweet. My name is Ann Moritz. I'm from the North Collins region. We are a right to farm community. Right now, we are seeing an encroachment on the farmlands from the green energy corporations. And we are looking to see that this farm bill helps with more conservancy properties or programs to help our farmers keep their farmland to farm and not lose this to green energy. Yes, the money is good, but being able to recover these beautiful farmlands if there is an environmental disaster from a turbine fire or anything like this, we don't want to lose our land that way. So we are asking for our backing in our conservancy programs and for the rural farm development programs. Our farmers need the assistance from the government to do what they do best, and we ask for the protection for them. And I thank you for your time.
I want to thank everyone for coming. I'm glad I didn't have to use the trap door. And now we'll have closing remarks from the Congressman.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to each and every person that wanted to say some remarks. Our staff will remain here, but Chairman Thompson's got some very tight obligations and has to get back on the road. He's been very generous with his time here this morning. This has been incredibly educational. This is going to help us as we finish the bill text in the Farm Bill, and I'm so grateful that Chairman Thompson was able to share some of his time with us to hear from our growers, our farmers in Western New York and the Southern Tier. So it's just so important we get to share our voice with this critical process. So thank you all for taking time out of your schedules, and I'd like to invite Chairman Thompson to share some final remarks.
Well, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Cornell University for hosting us here and at this research facility, and quite frankly to a good friend, colleague, member of the U.S. House Agriculture Committee, Nick Langworthy. I got to tell you, it was a little self-serving when I was populating the committee. I got tired of being the only member of Congress from northeastern United States, and I need somebody that I knew would have my back and have the back of farmers and ranchers and the agriculture community. And Nick has certainly served that role. Proud of Mark Molinaro, who also serves on the committee as well. And so I will say that northeastern United States is probably, we have a stronger representation because of these two gentlemen than what we've had in my previous 15 years on the committee. So really proud to have him here. I guess we'll just say water ski over some of the issues just real quick to provide some updates. Some of the stuff we were able to comment on, and I appreciate that. Trade is incredibly important, right? Trade is what helps agriculture be insulated when domestic markets go south for whatever reason, whatever happens. And so an additional investment in market access program and foreign market development, which you've heard about in the testimony here, is important. Those programs are still being funded at the same amount as what they were created. So my estimates, not being an economist, though because of sequestration in the past and because of inflation primarily, we're only getting about 20 to 25% of the power of those programs. Those programs need to be doubled, and I think that needs to be a priority. Now, I will say I'm getting I didn't mention money as a limiting factor, but it's a challenge. There's no really new dollars, so it's about finding dollars that are appropriated but not being spent ineffectively. So I'm not kidding when I say all my exercise now is lifting rocks in Washington looking for money underneath the different programs, but that has to be a priority. That's part of the market, right? And we need strong domestic and foreign markets for all the commodities you've heard about today. Nutrition is incredibly important to me. There's not going to be new dollars for nutrition. Why is that? Because the Farm Bill is $1.51 trillion over 10 years, and nutrition is $1.1 trillion of that. So, I mean, it is important. We're supporting those who consume, those families in difficult financial needs. There's a lot of asks for some additional things. So I need the support of those who are helping with that to figure out within that $1.1 trillion, what can we, are there things that we can shift around to meet some of the new ideas? Great ideas have been put on the table, but I don't see a single chance that I would be successful of achieving additional monies of beyond the 1.1 trillion, which nutrition. Nutrition, I'm an old Boy Scout. Hate to admit I've been scouting for like 53 years. I'd like to think I started when I was 1, but it doesn't work that way. And so I use principles to guide the work that we do in the committee. And my principles on nutrition are very straightforward. Number one is, this is 2023, so innovation and flexibility. when it comes to nutrition programs, whether it's TFAB, which is incredibly important for food banks, food pantries, whether it's SNAP program, whether it's, quite frankly, the SNAP Employment and Career and Technical Education, which is only ineffective when we have governors and state legislatures which do not fully embrace and lean into it. And so I just want to put out there that for those states that participate, which is all 50 states, there'll be some, after we're done with the Farm Bill, some very kind invitations sent to our governors to come in and to come before the committee and to explain how they execute and administer the programs that we authorize and provide. Because we need that type of transparency and accountability from those who execute programs, because we need them to do well with it. And a lot of states do really great things with it. The second principle is that, and it's in law now after the FRA, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the debt ceiling, that the nutrition title is as much about financial security as it is food security. And always has been. We've had generally work opportunities since 1993. The third is program integrity. My own experience is there's not a lot of fraud within the nutrition program. There is some. And unfortunately, what there is makes the news, and that makes our job all the harder when those incidents make the news. But the fact is, we should have zero tolerance and work towards maximum program integrity. Because if you even have a dollar that is somehow misspent, fraudulently acquired, that's a dollar I look at as the mouth of a child living in poverty circumstances that we could provide just a little more nutrition to. And then finally, it's healthy eating. Used to be nutritional, but I've come to understand everywhere after extensive research, the federal government actually has no definition of nutrition. Incredible. Yeah, and it's hard. Healthy eating. So we're using more of an approach of what's healthy. And I'll be honest with you, that's very specific to the individual, right? People have different food allergies and different things in medical conditions, and but healthy eating is our fourth principle when it comes to nutrition. Something I was very proud to chair that subcommittee in the 2018 Farm Bill, where we did things like improving GusNIP and access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and but within that realm, we need to work within that universe to make improvements. Technical assistance was mentioned, and all I can say is amen to that. We need better technical assistance for those folks that are on the ground and in the fields and producing. And so that is something we're looking see how we can support. Specialty crops, prior to the 2014 Farm Bill, specialty crops wasn't really on the radar, right? 14 Farm Bill, we got it on the radar. 18 Farm Bill, we need it better, and we need to be better going forward. We need to be better in terms of research, mechanization. With my travels around the country, I am very proud on my resume. I now have that I picked grapefruits in California, Texas, and Florida, and it all involved a rickety wooden ladder and a burlap bag, because there's no mechanization for that specialty crop and a lot of other ones. So looking at mechanization, especially as we're faced with workforce issues, how do we get the mechanization, new mechanization to offset what we cannot get for workers going forward. Crop insurance options. There's only a few specialty crops that have crop insurance options. Now, crop insurance is a public-private partnership, so we want to encourage that the private sector, it's the farmers who make the purchase, it's the government that helps to make that purchase more affordable, and it's the private sector that offers the products. We need more products for crop insurance products for our specialty crops, something we want to encourage. Ag research investment, I really appreciate the fact that we heard that over and over and over today. You all have heard my definition of American agriculture. It is science, technology, and innovation. It is not static, it is dynamic, and that means that we need to step up if we can. It's a matter of finding the money for it. I'm going to 4% from 2% is certainly sounds good to me as a minimal step. It's finding the dollars to be able to do that. We are way ahead of any other country in the world. Now, there's others spending more money on research to be able to catch us, But so there's other countries that are spending more, but they're a long ways from reaching us of where we are with our science and technology. Let's not lose that lead role. So it's important. The LAMP program was kind of referred to a number of times, and I think it's a great tool to, how many farms do we know that, I don't know too many farms where somebody, whether it's the farmer, the spouse, the kids, don't have to work off the farm, need outside income to be able to keep that farm in play. So the LAMP program is we combined in 2018 the value-added program and the domestic marketing program into something called LAMP. It's a great program. And when you look at helping our farmers to be able to get direct access to consumers, taking the middle person out. In dairy, you don't always get to use all your milk. You may still use a co-op, but hopefully you have a co-op that will allow some of your milk so you can do some type of custom cheese or ice cream or whatever it might be. There's two sisters in Tioga County, the Painter sisters. Their dairy is now organic, and they have, if you've never tried Painter Sister yogurt, I recommend it. These two gals are in their 20s, and they're just on fire with what they're doing. And I think the LAMP program helped them to be able to do that. They're now selling to other states and to different countries. It's an example of, now those farm families are still going to have to work hard. They're probably still going to do the same number of hours, but it's a step in the right direction if we can let them they don't have to leave the farm to be able to do that. So that's the LAMP program. Solar and wind on private farm ground, I'm not a huge fan. In fact, please never use the word, there's no such thing as far as I'm concerned as a solar farm or a wind farm. Those are not farms. You may call them plantations or some other word, but in my mind, they're not farms. And we have a lot of bellies to fill. Now, I absolutely get it. If you're a farmer that's a little more seasoned, I don't use the O word, the older I get, and you don't have family members, kids, grandkids are following behind you, it's pretty hard to resist cashing in with some leases, perhaps, part of your retirement. I think there's a couple things we can do there. We should be looking at the tax credits. That I don't think if there were tax credits for those alternative energies, I don't believe a lot of that would get built. We need to help the transition of new young beginning farmers to both acreage and wisdom, which the retiring farmer has to offer. And quite frankly, the number one thing that we need to do to avoid perhaps losing this, and I'm talking about fertile farm ground. We all have soils that are not so great sometimes. They're highly erodible. There's a lot of roofs. There's perfect places for some alternatives. But I think the most important thing we can do is, quite frankly, make farming profitable again, so we don't have that issue. And I'm gonna pull. I always finish with one last soapbox. I get so, and I really didn't hear a lot about it here, but many places I go, I actually did a forum last night with the Secretary of Agriculture at Hamilton College. It's his own alma mater, and it was great. They invited the secretary. They're very proud of him, and he's a friend of mine. We work well together, but they had a moderator from CNN who I really get tired of having individuals who don't understand American agriculture putting bullseye and labels on the back of the American farmer, rancher, and forester and processors that says climate criminal. It's not true. It's a claim that's based on political science. When you look at the real science, and my data I pull from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate, pretty well accepted authority when it comes to climate. They looked at American agriculture. Now, they didn't do us any favors. They called it, I forget what they did call it, actually, but it's like land solutions or something like that. But when you read the details of their study, they're looking at those who grow crops, those who grow livestock, and those who grow trees. And the research is pretty straightforward. It says in an average year in the United States of America, the American farmer, now I use that broadly, so it's rancher, it's forester, it's processor. The American farmer sequesters 6.1 gigatons of carbon annually. Now, I have no idea how big a gigaton is. I've tried to learn that definition. I'm challenged. But what I did learn, Nick, you probably know this, the abbreviation for gigaton, GT. So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of a big deal. So, but the research, when you read the research and go a little deeper into the text, it talks about how on an annual basis, the American farmer sequesters 10.1% more carbon than what we admit. Because the American agriculture is so productive, increasing 287% since the 1940s, we're going to take it to 400% with this farm bill, with what we're going to, provisions and resources we're going to put into that. Because of that, because American agriculture is dynamic, it is because it is science, technology, and innovation. You know, that's what makes the American farmer, quite frankly, the carbon hero of the world. Nobody does it better. And it's not static. Well, it'll get better because of what we'll do and the investments and the research that we'll make. And to give you some idea of a really exciting conclusion within that legislation, I'll close with this, is that there was a question posed, what could you do on this day in September of 2023 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions around the world? And there really is only one credible solution, and that is for the American farmer to produce more and export it overseas. And that's good news. That's a win-win. So I really want to thank you. Your contributions today and all the things that you want to submit in writing, whether some maybe thought you didn't get the end, or maybe, or you know, you weren't real crazy about coming up to a microphone and you'd sooner just submit it in writing. It's all welcome. You know, get it to the congressman here and he'll make sure it gets to me and I'll make sure it gets to the committee and our team. Because if you're not, when it comes to public policy, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And I know all of our farmers want to be on the menu, but that's not what I'm talking about. And so I want to thank everybody for taking time out of such a beautiful day here in New York, and the contributions that you've made. Your investment today by being here, you have made the 2023 Farm Bill better. So thank you so much. Good job.